Sacred moments. Sacred moments with you. Sacred moments. Yeah. Enter in sacred moments. I'm here in this space on this day with you. I'm here in this sacred space witnessing the morning dew. Sacred moments. In voice and in victory, we will share our thoughtful view, conversing and even challenging things we thought we knew. Sacred moments. With expectancy and excitement is this time set aside. Won't you enter in with us? And come on, let's take this ride. Riding the waves of wonder and whimsy. We're not here to do silly or flimsy. We're sacred moments. We are here open to listen and engage and converse. You know I'm going to keep the triune God in sight and first. I'm here with you on this holy mountain of meaning, sharing vows and syllables, discussing powerful gleanings. It's sacred moments. With songs and sonnets and poems and prose, this is not just another one of those radio shows. It's sacred moments. It's sacred moments with me as your host, here to clear and create and commune with you from coast to coast. It's sacred moments. Enter. Good morning. Good morning. That's my song this morning, just 2 lines. Good morning, good morning.
Good morning.
All right, it's another Sunday. It is 9 a.m. and we are live in living color. Sacred moments with you. You audience, international, national audience. We are so thankful that you are with us yet again for, guess what, Alter Ego?
What?
Show number 18. I'm counting them.
We're getting up there.
We are getting close to 20 shows. I mean, that's like a whole season. I
Yep.
mean, come on now. We need a at the end of like I'm going back now, Dallas and How to Get Away with Murder. They have those season cliffhangers. We might need one of those shows.
Yeah. That's a good idea.
Yeah. How you doing today?
I have a headache. I'm not feeling the greatest, but I'm here because I'm dedicated.
Exactly. I was
Yep.
thinking about that today too. I know one show I was like
Yeah.
really not feeling well, and we pushed through. You helped me push through, and so
Yep.
today I hope that I can help you push through. So audience, lift up alter ego into the light and to God's healing, and we're gonna keep it moving because we are
Yep.
dedicated to
Yep.
you, to you, audience, to you. It's been a very interesting week over here in these parts of where I live at. All kind of things are going on, and we pushing through all of that as well. So I'm excited though that today the Lord touched us and called our name and woke us up, and we're just going to keep going forward. So,
Yep.
audience, we hope you're well. How's everybody out there in Radio Land, Facebook Land, iTunes Land, Spotify Land, YouTube Land? Did I miss anything?
Yeah, we're everywhere. Audible. We
Woo,
out here.
we out here. My goodness. How y'all like that audience? We doing the darn thing. Oh my goodness. Well, as I've been talking this month, one of the things I do want to mention very specifically, um, Tuesday, November the 2nd, in the state of Pennsylvania, it is voting day. Voting is very important.
Mhm.
And in the city of Philadelphia, especially, local elections are, I think, as important, equally important as national elections. And we are going to be voting for some questions on the budget of how the budget is spent. Why you
Mhm.
ask is that important? Because we're taxpayers, and that's our money that's being spent. We got to remember that. And then, secondly, with the judges, why is it important to vote for judges? Because they really do hold a lot of weight when it comes to our personal life. For instance, they make determinations about incarceration. We know in the United States of America that overwhelmingly people of color are incarcerated more and at longer terms than others. Judges have the ability to make judgments on your home, taking away property, sending your kids to foster home, all kinds of reasons that it is important to consider that this is an election that you want to be engaged in. Um, so there are all kind of websites with information on those that are running so that you can be educated in that field, and we just really want to encourage you to do that. All right, that's my community service spiel for today.
Yeah, I gotta get the horns and the applause next time. I keep forgetting.
Oh wow, that would be, yeah, woo woo woo. We moving along though, that's okay. Today we have a very special guest. We all of our guests are very special. Let me say that, but we have a very special guest today. She is my friend and someone that has played a major role in me becoming an author and how to maneuver through all of that with book signings and also just coaching on life through some challenging times. So I want to actually do something that Alter Ego said, don't do too much, but I really wanted to have her come on, but I want to read part of her bio so that you know exactly who is speaking to you. And this is the Reverend Aida Ingram who will be joining us. She's known as the marketing and ideal chick. I really like that. Reverend Aida's had over 20 years of experience in marketing and sales and training. And one of the things that I really like her, she's known for helping people to think outside the box. So she has her clients. She helps us to find our voice and our passion, and to reach our goals. She also has 10 years of social media experience, showing people how to connect their audiences both on and offline. She stays on the cutting edge of both information and technology. And we know now that that's very important, exploring new ideals, beta testing with software and services, just keeping up with that. She's also trained as a life coach in the Institute for Professional Excellence in Coaching, coaching specializing in business coaching, executive coaching, and as I said, life coaching. She's known as a licensed minister and preacher, motivational speaker, published author, and entrepreneur. She has wide educational achievements. She's worked for Fortune 1000 companies such as General Electric and Sprint and QVC, Walmart, and on and on and on. And so we want to have her come on this morning and join us and just share some of that information, as well as one of the things that we really want to hone in on is talking about breast cancer and breast cancer awareness. So let's welcome our guest.
Yay!
Let's welcome our guest this
You sound like
morning.
a superstar. That's an awesome bio.
Yeah, and I've had a vast and very strange experiences, and God orchestrated that whole thing. I take zero credit. But I need to hire Reverend B. Michelle as my press agent. I see.
Okay, because I'm like, wait a minute.
Oh yeah,
It's a
yeah.
blessing to be here and to share on this amazing and very, very important topic in our community. And I'm
Yeah.
totally honored for the opportunity, and I'm excited to hear questions and to be able to answer, um, and to even be able to share my experience as a breast cancer survivor. So I am open to whatever you have, ladies, to throw at me right now.
Well, as the audience is coming in, we're going to ask that the audience has any questions about breast cancer awareness. We're going to try to answer them. But one of the things that we like to do as we kind of ease into our conversation is to ask a quirky question. I'm going to throw something at you. We know this is a question like we pretty much ask everybody, and because my mind is going in a million directions, I can't think of another one right now. But if you were had superpowers,
Okay.
what superpower would you like to have?
Fly. I'd like to fly.
You like to fly?
Yes, honey. I'll be in Tahiti tomorrow.
Okay.
I have a quirky question, a new
Thank
one.
you.
If you had to eat one meal for the rest of your life, what would it be? Just one meal.
Ooh, lobster, because I am a seafood chick until the end. Um, and asparagus, broccoli, Caesar salad, and I'm not a starch person, so I probably just pick collard greens or kale.
A lot of green.
Shiny. Yes, I love vegetables.
You said Caesar salad, collard greens, or kale. Yeah,
Mm,
you're a vegetable person.
I'm a vegetable person.
Yeah. I've always known you to eat well and healthy and balanced. Um, so I'm going to ask about when you were diagnosed with breast cancer, and you can, tell us a little bit about that. And you take care of yourself. What was the correlation between, wait a minute, I take care of myself and now I'm diagnosed with this disease?
Well, I will tell you, I am third generation breast cancer survivor. My grandmother died when she was 40 of breast cancer. I had my aunt, she she died in her 40s as well, and I was diagnosed at 44.
Mm.
So I grew up very aware of the potential that I could one day become someone who was diagnosed with breast cancer. There was never a time when I didn't realize that. I was 16 when my aunt died. My grandmother died before I was born. I think my mom was 13 or 14 when she passed away. So I grew up with early screenings. I
Oh,
think I started
okay.
screening at 35 years old. And I just was always very conscious and aware of my genetic background. I mean, I think
Mhm.
that's really important to consider both as someone who is a mom, but also any woman. You need to know your family history. So that enabled me to be more precautious, and it also enabled me to be more thoughtful about my life choices. So I wasn't, when you talk about being healthy and eating right and exercising, that was a very big part of who I have been my entire life.
Mhm.
Uh, so I found out uh, I had, and actually I never do this, and this year was the year I got diagnosed, which was 2016. The year before 2015, I was so crazy busy. I did not get my mammogram when I was supposed to. So I was behind, not a lot behind, but a
Mhm.
couple months behind. And I had all this free time because I unfortunately had an accident in November of the year before. So I had all this time because I couldn't work. So I said, I have to get back on track. I need to get these tests done. And I have all the time I had before. And I went in, they did the screening, and I'm thinking, because you always get mammograms. Well, I always get mammograms every year since I was 35.
I do
And
too.
I was like, look, I would go to the doctors and say, I had to advocate to get my screenings done earlier because normally you don't start until later. And I went in, they did the screenings, had them before, looked at the tech's face. They were like, hold on a second, we need to do something else. We need some more images. I'm like, why do you need more images? Like, you start asking these questions. And I could tell when the doctor came out and he said, because they always have the doctors look at your screenings before you leave, especially if they have some questions. And then they were like, well, we think you need to get some additional screenings done. So I was like, okay, And it was like, God kind of let me know something wasn't right.
Yeah.
Got the screenings. And, I did a screening. I did a biopsy. The biopsy came back a little challenging. And I had some wonderful doctors early on who were very forthcoming because I'm pretty curt, like, look, give it to me straight.
Yeah.
What are you looking for? What do you see? What's going on? And she was very open and honest with me and told me that there were some, I think she called them basal cells that she was concerned about, the way they were clustered when she did the biopsy that she was concerned about. And she thought it might be positive for breast cancer, and it was.
Yeah. So I guess I don't want to fast forward too quickly, but I want to get to a couple of the questions that are coming forth. I really want to encourage and you can affirm that women to check their bodies.
Right.
Because even though I do, I'm with you with getting your mammogram, that's very important. But the two times that there was a possibility for me, it was one because I found something in my right breast. So, for a period of time, I had to go every 6 months just to make sure that it wasn't. And the other one was in my left breast where I had to get the biopsy. But it was from me doing my own self-examination. And so we really do want to encourage the audience to the importance of that.
Well, I think we have to normalize taking better care of ourselves and putting ourselves on notice. Like, just like you have a schedule where you do something for work or you hang out with your friends, or we need to normalize self-care, which is knowing your body, but also doing breast self-exams, knowing when you're supposed to get different screenings done for your own health and well-being, encouraging our friends. Like, I think we have a lot of conversations about maybe fashion or
Yeah.
where you're going or where the new trip is, but we don't have those same conversations about what we need to do to be healthy as women and kind of championing each other to take better care of ourselves. Girl, when the last time you've been to the doctors? Because I don't hear you mention the fact that you got that cough checked out or this checked out, or the fear factor, I think, which can often be associated with taking care of yourself or going to the doctor or checking on someone other than people you care about and love. You need to check in with yourself.
Mm-hmm.
And that does mean breast self-exams. If you don't do a breast self-exam monthly, you're not going to know when something is off because you don't know what it's like when something's not off. And that's something you need to know about yourself.
Mm-hmm.
Because early detection really does save lives, and it gives you so many more options. And there are a lot of minority communities that are unfortunately getting diagnosed at much later stages where options are fewer because they don't make those steps and they don't make those things a priority.
Yeah.
I have a question. You said that you're third generation. So knowing that, did that kind of prepare you for the diagnosis, or were you still like, totally shocked? And I'm asking that question, I have another question you can answer right behind it. I've read somewhere where it says that a lot of times the African American communities, they say things are, genetic and it's passed down through families, but it's really about like the habits that are passed down. Was there anything that, is it like a genetic marker, or is there something that could have been done differently to maybe, avoid you getting it or someone else, maybe your children or your children's children, something like that?
It's funny you asked that. There are a couple different things I think that need to be considered. I think that there are different changes you can make that will help you. But I think if something is in your genetics, something's in your genetics. So I think there's always things that you can do, like eating healthy, taking care of yourself, exercising, managing stress. I think they're all factors, but I think that there's sometimes can be things that are in the cards that you can't control. And do I think that there are things that I could have done differently? I think everybody can do things differently. Could it have helped? Who's to say? There are a ton of genetic markers that have yet to be discovered. And actually, the funny thing is, when my mother, when genetic testing initially came out, there was a really big push, because my mom's a twin, a really big push to get people tested, to see, because you can do things like you can get a mastectomy done if you're concerned about the family history. So there are things like that you can do. But I asked her if she would do the testing, because I wanted to go. I'm like, can I go? And they're like, no, we only want this group of people. That's changed since. But I wanted her to get the testing, and she didn't feel comfortable doing that, which I can totally understand. But I don't know that there's anything that you can potentially do if you have the genetic makeup and the genes are just working behind the scenes. You can pray. I believe in prayer. But I also am very clear that some things are just part of your genes.
And I really appreciate the fact that you said this earlier, and and even Brenda Robertson is kind of talking about that. You know, the tension between knowing and not knowing.
Right.
Like if we are not going to find out what is going wrong with us, we don't know
Right.
how much time we're taking off our own life because we have refused to find out, what something is or isn't.
Right.
Right, because it may not be that, and then we've lived with that whole fearfulness of what if for maybe years, and not having to go through that. I remember, my family has different people in my family have died from different kinds of cancer. So I remember my primary, I think it was after my brother died, and anyway, some people that I won't, say their names for confidentiality. They were like, "Well, we think, we want you to keep getting tested for these markers."
Right.
And one of them was like uterine cancer, right? And I had, but at least I knew, and I could make a decision whether or not I wanted to have surgery or just monitor it. But if I didn't know,
Right.
because of fear, because all of these people in my family have it, and so I'm going to get something. It gives your power away.
Right.
I'm going to say that, to fear or to the unknown. It doesn't have to be there. Fellowship of Women Clergy say the fear factor. Yes, fear. Yes, that is a hindrance. And as I said, Brenda, Alter Ego, you want to read that, or you want me to read it?
Sadly, Brenda Robertson says, sadly, in some Black families, it's difficult to get the truth of what someone in the family has or died from. It's been a struggle to get that information in my family, getting better with the younger generation. And she also commented earlier saying to let go the fear of finding something, the thought that if I don't check, nothing is there. It's so easy to have self-denial, but God has us. And then we have a question from Fellowship of Women Clergy. Can you please explain what markers are?
Well, let me say one thing that I think is super important, because I think we talk about this blanket statement of breast cancer. Breast cancer has 5 stages: 0, 1, 2, 3, and 4. When you are diagnosed as 0 and 1, your treatment is significantly different than if you get diagnosed at 2, 3, and 4. Okay. So I think if we are able to remove the fear of finding out, and we think about finding out earlier and the different and significant changes that makes in your treatment, in the way you feel and how you're able to manage your health. Because when we go to 2, 3, and 4, we're talking about cancers going to other areas of our body. And
is that what you call metastatic cancer?
Yes. When it goes, like when you're out of, I think 4 is stage 4 is metastatic.
Okay.
So when it starts to go to these other areas where, and I will tell you, Komen and other organizations like them, however we personally feel about them, if you look at breast cancer in relation to other cancers, the amount of research and money that has been spent on diagnosis and testing and early detection and medicines, and the amount of money that we have been able to raise through these organizations that have then put money back into research and development has made a huge deal in terms of giving us options. When you talk about other cancers, they're not early detection. You're getting diagnosed at stage 3 and stage 4, which definitely change your life. So because we have breast cancer research at the amounts that we do now, there are things that breast cancer survivors don't go through today that they went through 10 years ago and 20 years ago. Like the options available to me and the options available to my grandmother and my aunt are incredibly different. Breast cancer means something totally different today than it meant 10 years ago. And if we can educate people to their options and choices versus what they have in their minds about what this means, I think it would make I think it would make a huge difference in how people looked at things, because it's all about perspective. So, if I if I cut my hand, right, with a knife, and I go to the hospital right now and get stitches, and I'll get stitches, I'll go home. But if I cut myself with a knife today and then I let it fester and it gets infected, and so I can go from amputation to a Band-Aid and some stitches. And I think if we start to look at breast cancer in some of the same ways, I think it would make it a lot easier for us to address the fear factor that a lot of people are sitting on right now that oftentimes isn't even based on fact.
I really appreciate that. Was very informative, and I'm hoping, and what I prayed for before we came on, that there would be someone listening that would hear this and really take care of themselves as soon as possible, and walk away, informed, and also encouraged from what you just said. The difference of research that has been done over time. It seems to be getting better and better and better, that we can combat that. We want to answer this question, if you would, and then we have about 15 minutes left, and I want to talk about the legislation piece, if that's okay. The Fellowship of Women Clergy has a question that says, please explain what markers are.
So, genetic markers are things that predispose you because of your genetics to certain cancers. There's tons of them. The BRCA gene was one that they talked about. That was the big one with Angelina Jolie and a whole bunch of other folks. That's when they first started to do genetic markers to look and see if you had the marker as part of your DNA. But there are tons of other ones. There are probably tons more that they haven't even found yet. They're constantly doing research. When I went in, I know I was tested for 20. So now there are a lot. Well, there's not more. So first it started with BRCA, and now there's 20 panels. So they do like a panel. They take your blood. You do genetic testing, and then once they do the genetic testing, which is only a blood test, they can then tell you if you have the other markers. And then not only are you predisposed to breast cancer, but there are other cancers that are in connection with those as well.
Right. Yeah. The not the breast cancer awareness website says that breast cancer is the most common cancer in American women, except for skin cancers. 1 in 8 chance that she will develop cancer. But you've encouraged me to know that it's not a death sentence. That early prevention, caring for ourselves, doing self exams. And research has brought us further than what we were. And so I think that we have good news here at this time. We have a comment, and then I want to just make mention of what we talked about. Dr. Johnson says it was in the news yesterday that Philadelphia City Councilwoman, I cannot pronounce her first name, Sanchez, who is 52, says she put off having a mammogram for 7 years. She is now recovering after having a mastectomy over the summer. Wow. I mean, the universe, God, faith, us, we are beseeching people to take care of themselves in a way that can help save them from mastectomies, and even death, right? Now, before we came on, and because I think you are an advocate and you've done great research. And so tell us about legislation and breast cancer, and just maybe some of the fallacies that we think that have not had this personally happen to us. Tell us, what is it that you want this audience to know about that?
I think the first thing is that you shouldn't let fear stop you. I've always been in the mindset of empowering people to make better choices. And if you really think about what is a better choice for you, I remember when I went in for treatment, I had an amazing doctor, I had great doctors, which I'm very thankful for. And the woman told me that this is going to take a year out of your life. So just, it's going to take a year out of your life between the treatments and all you have to do. And I was like, a year? And she was right, about a year. And I was stage 1. So I know people who have stage 4 cancer who are in treatment weekly, monthly. So I don't necessarily live with breast cancer on an everyday basis. I'm a 5-year survivor, which is a strong milestone for cancer survivors. Thank you very much, Jesus. And I think that's a great thing. But I mean, I don't live with it on a daily basis because I was able to find this cancer early, able to get diagnosed early. I had good doctors. I advocated for myself when I went to the doctor, and I didn't like the way the direction they were going in. I was very thoughtful about what I was okay with in terms of my treatment options, because I didn't have a mastectomy. I had a lumpectomy. I had chemotherapy and I had radiation. And all of these are big choices to make.
Yeah.
Good thing that I was able to do was I knew what I personally was comfortable with, because me and my doctor, and she's one of my favorite doctors. She was the first doctor I saw. We cried together. When I was in her appointment, but she felt very strongly that I should have a mastectomy. And I felt very strongly about me not having a mastectomy. She said, "What's your family history?" And I'm like, and I mean, you have to know what you personally feel comfortable with when it comes to treatment and options. But advocating for yourselves. Like, I know some young survivors who were diagnosed in their 30s. And they had to fight. They had to fight doctors and insurance companies to get screened because of their ages, which is terrible. Like, I was diagnosed at 44, which is early, but I mean, imagine being in your 30s, and having to fight people for, something's not right with your body, and you have to get permission from them to even get screened. Like, I had women, I've heard stories of women who were turned away. So, I mean, for me, what makes me feel good and what allows me to pay it forward, I guess, in some ways, and really advocate for the people who are coming behind me. Because I know there's some people who aren't going to get screened early. And when I heard about the disparities, like, we often see that there are free mammograms. It's the initial screening mammograms that are free. But sometimes people have to pay for the diagnostic mammogram.
Okay. Oh, wow.
And they can be up to $1,000, and some insurance companies will not cover that, or some organizations will not cover that. If you don't have insurance, you may be able to get the initial screening, but getting a diagnostic screening can be a challenge. And not only can it be a challenge, it can be a challenge not just financially, but also mentally. So imagine they find something in your screening when you go to the vans where they do the free screenings.
Yeah.
And you can't afford a diagnostic.
I did not know that. Yeah.
There's legislation on the books we've been trying to get passed. I know I went to Washington in 2019, I think it was, to talk to legislators. Like, why is it possible for me to get a diagnostic screening without a problem, but I may have a sister in another state or in another place who can't get a free diagnostic?
Yeah.
And that fear factor, it's like, I got to pay $1,000 and I'm afraid of what they might find. Like, that's crazy. There's disparity with chemotherapy. There's oral chemotherapy people take, and normally chemotherapy is paid for fully, pretty much, with most healthcare companies. But oral chemotherapy can actually go on your prescription plan. So if you have a 20% copay on your prescription, that applies for your chemo. So there are women who need treatment who can't afford it. And that's a legislation we've been trying to get passed for quite some time. So, like, for me, it's, how do I make it better for people who are coming after me in different states? There are different rules of what they pay for and what they don't. And, like, you should really find out about your personal state, because there is a difference between what somebody gets in one state and what's covered in one state and what's not covered in another state. So if you talk about somebody who's either underinsured or not insured at all, treatment can be a really big challenge. I know I had to fight for a prescription that I needed, but I had, I could go back and say my doctors advocated for me. But what about folks who don't have those options?
Yeah.
I mean, what can we do, to help get legislation passed? Is there a number we can call, something that we can do to help on our end?
So one of the bills is called the Access to Breast Cancer Diagnosis Act, is Act ABCD. is Legislation Act S 1067 slash HR 5769. It basically is advocating for national coverage of the diagnostic exam. You can call your senators, you can call the House of Representatives, your people in Congress, and tell them you want this bill to pass. I know I sat down with Andy Kim, who's from New Jersey, Jeff Van Drew, who's also from New Jersey, because I'm from New Jersey. We went to a couple other legislators. We went to Cory Booker's office. We explained to them, we talked to them about why this was needed, why this was necessary. And that was 2 years ago. I think the bill still hasn't passed. It's still on the floor. It hasn't been funded. And it was something a lot of people said they got behind, but they didn't get behind with sponsoring the bill. So asking your members of Congress to get behind these bills, to sponsor them so that they can actually get the support they need so they can get passed. These are all really big things that any of us can do. Hey, email, call, I'm behind this bill. I want you to support it. That's something that we all can do, because we all know somebody who either has breast cancer or somebody who has a family member or a friend who's had breast cancer. I think being educated about what's going on, because I paid some attention to bills, but actually sitting down and talking to folks in Congress about what they were doing and why it was important, and really getting behind these things and talking to them and letting them hear my voice, because the things that people say and the things that get the action they come from people who continue to get on the horn and say, hey, I'm behind this. You need to support this. And the more people we get calling and emailing and doing all those things, they make a big difference in whether or not this legislation gets passed.
So I would say that we will take that information that you just said. You'll forward that to me, and we'll post it, where on our social media, so that at least we have that information to help. It's one thing to know it, but it's another thing to make that step. And we're asking our audience to get behind this, making the phone calls, emails, and just saying, get behind this bill. 2 years, the bill has been sitting. And here again is another reason to know who you're voting for,
right,
and why you're voting. It really does affect our everyday life. It's no way around it, just the way that things are set up. We have about 2 minutes.
Okay.
I want to ask one last question, because I know that you're a woman of faith.
Mm-hmm.
So how does your faith play a part in the recovery, sustaining, and advocating? How does your faith play a part? We have about 2 minutes.
Okay. I think during my experience, I knew that God was with me, and I think that helped center me, and gave me the strength to be able to get through this journey. It's a journey. So one of the things that I have found with faith and with this experience, I think sharing, being the person that says you can get through this, encouraging people. I mean, I feel sorry for all the women I see with bald heads in the store, or because I'm like, I'm like kind of prying, like, are you okay? Like, and I'm like, they may have other problems, but I'm always trying to, empower folks, encourage them, and remind them that God is with them through this process. I think healing is something you continue to do. I feel like after the treatments, I probably felt more like I got hit with a brick, because after the adrenaline is over, the healing really begins when you're not in the doctor's office and you have to deal with I know one of the things a lot of survivors talk about is that feeling that, oh my gosh, what do you do if it comes back again? And allowing God to continue to encourage me that in spite of it all, whatever happens, he's always with me. And I keep that in my heart, and I remember that, and I use it to help me go forward And then the empowerment piece for me, and then the paying back piece for me is what can I do for the children that come after me, or the women that come after me, to be able to be an encouragement to them, and then reminding them that healing is a process as well.
Audience, I hope that wherever you're at, you are as grateful as I am for this informative, I'm going to say life changing conversation. It's been very educational. It's reminding us to advocate for ourselves, to care for ourselves. We care for a lot of other people, and we really need to make sure that we are caring for ourselves, mind, body, and spirit. I started off reading Reverend Ingram's some of her bio, with marketing and advocacy, and being an author, and all of the wonderful things that she does. But I want you to know that she is my friend, and that she has helped me personally, with advocacy and encouragement, inspiration, and just living out that life. So if we live out our life, words are good, but the actions are really what speak loudly, and she has done that very well. Her organization is also called Girlfriends with Goals. Girlfriends with Goals. You can check out her website, Girlfriends with Goals, and you can find more about her marketing, social media, help, advocacy, all of that, and connect with her in that way. Girlfriends with Goals. Please take a moment and check that out. And we'll see. Maybe we'll have her come back next time and talk about some of those other things that she does, that marketing, that life coaching. Oh my goodness, and all of that, helping women. So thank you, audience. It's been a great conversation. We hope that to see you on Friday evenings at 6:30 for Sacred Space Ministry, where we are in a series calling the power of dot dot dot. Last week we talked about the power of joy. This week you got to come on and sign on to see what next power tool we're going to be looking at. So peace and blessings. Have an absolutely wonderful week. Thank you, Reverend Ingram. You were a great guest. Thank you for what you imparted to us. And just everyone go in peace, and let peace rule your heart. Until next time, peace and blessings.
Thank you for the opportunity, ladies.